everybody and welcome back to the channel and welcome to a collaboration with the lovely Frugal Stu. Now Stu and I challenged each other this week not to go to the supermarket and use up the leftovers and get everything cooked that we possibly could this week from what we already had. So I did a menu plan based on that. So you're going to see me make fridge freezer gravel pie. Basically whatever I've got in the freezer, whatever I've got in the fridge, it's going in a pie. Pretty similar, whatever I've got in the fridge or the freezer went in a pasta bake. Now this, if you like mac and cheese, if you like cauliflower cheese, it's pretty much those two mixed together. And I'm going to scrap the black bean burgers this week, they can stay in the freezer. I also had some pastry left over from making the pie and decided what I was going to do with that with some other fridge gravel was make some quiche. I also had some mushrooms getting a bit soggy, getting a bit sweaty. I had some celery left over in the freezer. I had some stock left in the freezer. So basically everything this week has come out of the fridge, out the freezer, haven't had to go to the supermarket, and I've cooked it all today. So as I said earlier, my plan is this week that I'm not going to go to the supermarket, that I'm going to use up everything that we've got here. And those things that are open, the pasta's open, I've got gluten-free flour open, my mushrooms. You know when you've had them in the fridge a while and they start getting a bit sweaty, and your tomatoes, they're going a bit soft. And the bag of cheese is open and you've got too many jars of stock in the freezer, and you've got bits of frozen meat and bits of frozen vegetables. So basically, that's what I'm doing with my meal plan this week. I'm going through all the bits and bobs that need using up. And even if I just turn them into meals that become ready meals for the rest of the week that go in the fridge or go in the freezer, I'm going to use up what we've got. So as I cook it, I'll show it to you. Basically, I call this fridge and freezer gravel. Those bits and pieces you've got lying around, you just need to get used up. Whilst I've got my batch cooking head on today, I'm making 2 batches of gluten-free pastry. It freezes really, really well. I use 280 grams of gluten-free flour. This one comes from Lidl. I use 1 teaspoon of xanthan gum, half a teaspoon of salt, 140 grams of lard. I'm using lard because it's much cheaper than butter, and it's obviously a natural product. I use 1 egg and 3 tablespoons of water. I'll probably add maybe 1 or 2 tablespoons more than that because I like my pastry to be quite soft. And I make it all in the food processor. The important thing to do with gluten-free pastry and any pastry is after you've made it, you need to chill it in the fridge for at least 30 minutes before you use it. Here is my 1 batch of pastry in the bag so it doesn't dry out, ready to go into the fridge. I'll make another one. What I don't use, I will freeze for another day. I think if you're in the mood for batch cooking and you want to get ahead, it's always good to have some pastry, pie crust I think some people call it, made and put away into the fridge. So there's 1 batch made, I'll make another batch and I will have plenty, not just for today, but for other days as well. Okay, more fridge and freezer gravel. Sitting in the bottom of the freezer, there was a bag of chopped up celery. As I said, the mushrooms were starting to get a bit sweaty. So I'm going to make a cream of mushroom soup. I don't use any precise measurements. I've got here about half of the punnet of mushrooms, so maybe 100 grams of mushrooms, 1 onion, maybe a cup and a half of chopped celery, and I've got here about 50 grams of butter. I've got some leftover stock. This is actually beef stock. Don't worry if it's beef stock, chicken stock, veggie stock, whatever you've got. And you can see here I've got some creme fraiche open as well, which had me thinking I've only got a few eggs left. They need using up. The cream needs using up. I think I can put together a quiche as well. Now, quiche isn't brilliant frozen. It's okay as long as you eat it quite quickly. So I might make the quiche, put it in the freezer, and we maybe eat it this weekend. But I'm going to make my soup. So I sautéed the mushrooms, the celery and the onions in some butter. I then added in the stock. I brought it to the boil. I then simmered it for about 5 minutes. I then added in about half my pack of creme fraiche, which is about 250 grams. And then I blended it with my blender stick, and you can see it there. Cream of mushroom soup. Now I'm going to pop this back into here with the rest of it. It's going to go in a container and it's all going to go in the freezer. I'm just showing you in the bowl what it looks like. It smells heavenly. My pastry is made and it is chilling in the fridge. I've got my good old metal pie dish here. I don't blind bake pastry when I use these metal dishes. And this is actually a cake tin, and you can use a cake tin and it'll make a pie just as well. So in here I've got some leftover ham that's been in the freezer for absolutely ages, some chicken that I picked from the chicken ages ago. I've got carrots that were sitting in the bottom of the fridge. There's leeks that were in the freezer, and that's about it in there. Oh, and some peas. Now, something else I like to use up is I've got potato dauphinoise here in my tins. And, you know, I've always got tins of this lying around. So some of this is going to go in with the pie. So it's basically potato in a creamy sauce. And it will create a kind of sauce in here as well. And half of it is going to pad out my pasta bake. So normally I would just use tinned potatoes or any potatoes I've got lying around. But fresh potatoes are really expensive, so this is a good thing to fall back on. So I'll get everything into my pie. Let's get back to the pies. I never ever like making gluten-free pastry on camera because it just falls apart and it just looks terrible. But what I do once I've got it into there is I will patch up any little bits that fall apart. You can see here, for example, I've patched a bit because gluten-free pastry just doesn't stay together. It's lovely and light to eat and it tastes delicious, but oh my goodness me, it just looks a mess. So there you go. There's the pie filling going into the pie tin. You can see, because I've only got one pie tin, I'm using a cake tin for the other one. I'll show you these next when they're all cooked. So next load of fridge gravel that's going to get cooked up is I had a bit of cauliflower frozen and some peas frozen as well. So I'm going to cook those. I've peeled and chopped some carrots. I'm going to cook these. I've already cooked my pasta. It's not quite cooked, it's almost cooked. I've got some sautéed mushrooms, onions and peppers here that I did. I split the other half into the quiche. And I'm going to make a cheese sauce in the pan that I already have here. I'll combine everything, it will go into a baking dish and it'll be baked, and that's my cheesy vegetable pasta bake. Here is our veggie pasta bake. Again, vegetables I needed to use up. I had a bag of pasta that was open, a bag of cheese that was open, half-used bag of frozen peas and frozen peppers. So I sautéed the peppers, the leeks, the onions in a bit of butter. I cooked the cauliflower, the carrots and peas just in water as normal. I made myself a cheese sauce and I've mixed it all together. So if you like cauliflower cheese or mac and cheese, this is absolutely perfect. Let's show you everything that I eventually cooked. So you can see I've made my 2 gluten-free pies. Each pie will feed us for 2 days. I'll probably do some green beans with it and some gravy. That'll be it. And then I've got my quiche, which looks darker than it is actually. It always looks different on camera. So I've got quiche, I had ham in the freezer, and it's just whatever I had left over. I had some creme fraiche left over as well, so that's gone in there too. You also saw me make my mushroom soup, and I'm going to change this into a different container so it takes up less space in the freezer. And you also saw me make the veggie pasta bake. So each one of those, I would just have that with coleslaw one night. The same as with the quiche, we'll just have that with coleslaw. So what you can see there, it's just come out of the bottom of the fridge and the freezer. Don't need to do any supermarket shopping this week. I can make coleslaw instead of salad. I've got some frozen vegetables, and that's it. I'm absolutely bushed, but that's it. That's all the food cooked for the week. Well, a big thanks to Frugal Stu for joining in with the collaboration today, and I'm looking forward to popping over to your channel to see what leftovers and bits and pieces you've used up, Stu. If you enjoyed the video today, go on, hit that like button. Thank you to all the subscribers, old and new. Thank you for all of your comments, and we read every single one of them, and we'll see you again soon. Bye!